Happy Monday, everybody. So I'm here today with a rant on the music business. And my rant today is about YouTubers who create these pages, many of which are enormously popular, where they talk about the 10 most overrated guitar players, the 10 worst guitar players, 10 most overrated musicians, stuff like that. It's clickbaity kind of stuff to get you to engage their page because controversy sells. Newspapers do the same thing all the time. You know, they lead with the most spectacular headline they can. And even if you hate them, you know, you're going to their page and you're subsidizing the page. I'm here to ask you to think about what you're doing when you do that. I don't click on those pages. I see them in my feed all the time because YouTube knows I like music. The Circle of Fifths page, which this is on, is a page devoted to music. I have written columns about this through the years. I don't think it's wise for musicians to go around bashing each other. I just really don't. Now, I do think it's acceptable to respond to bad criticism, which is what I suppose I'm doing today. And I'm going to talk about a guy, Jeff Slate, in a little while that I and many others, I had to get in line to do this, lit up about a year ago over some spectacularly bad criticism. But just for a musician to just go out and just talk bad about other people for no good reason, I'm just not for that. You know, a lot of people treat music like it's another sport or something. It's a competition of some kind. You know, well, I'm better than those people over there. And I guess I've never looked at it that way. Certainly I acknowledge that there are different levels of skill involved in different genres of music among different players and stuff. And everybody knows who kind of the top of the heap is in various fields. But I respect everybody that plays. I really do, especially performers, because it's an incredibly different and in some ways an unnatural thing to walk out onto a stage with a musical instrument and perform in front of an audience. And in many ways, it's more difficult to perform in front of small audiences. Sometimes a more intimate setting, like a nightclub or something, is harder than a concert stage. I respect people that can do that. And sometimes I even respect people who do that who maybe aren't as good as others, because when you're really good and everybody's screaming and yelling and tell you how cool you are, it's easier than when people are just kind of sitting there looking at you. That's the most difficult thing in the world. I played a funeral once as a solo act. It was the hardest gig I ever did in my entire life, because at the end of every song, people just kind of sat there. It's understandable, but, you know, as a performer, you expect positive reinforcement. When it's not there, that makes things a little bit difficult. But back to the main point. So all these, I saw a list the other day where the guy's talking about his 10 most overrated guitar players. And he actually said, bring on the hate right at the beginning of the video, so you know where the guy's coming from. And, some of the people he mentioned in his list, Steve Vai, I know Steve Vai. I had an opportunity to spend some time with him a while back. I was his climbing guide when he was with the David Lee Roth band and they were doing the Skyscraper tour, one of his climbing guides anyway, and I like the guy. Super nice guy, tremendous player, wonderful human being. And the criticism was, well, he's technically proficient, but he just doesn't move me. Well, so what? You know, he moves a lot of other people. There's no accounting for taste, I guess. Steve Vai is a fantastic guitar player, and he's even a nicer human being. And slagging Steve Vai is just, it's idiotic. There's a video on this site where I talk about this guy, Jeff Slate, you know, a musician and a critic in New York, who slagged Paul Simon and Joni Mitchell and a bunch of other people who suggested they were going to be a bunch of also-rans to Dylan and the Beatles a couple of hundred years from now. And you can find that video elsewhere on the site here. It's the most watched video on the site. I really hate people that run down musicians, especially if you were a musician yourself. Now, usually when I do see one of these things, I take the time to check out the person who has recorded this rant. And sometimes they're actually fairly decent musicians themselves. They play very well. this guy, Jeff Slate, he's a talented musician. But there is something wrong with anybody who criticizes others, especially when you know the amount of work and the amount of heart and soul that you have to put into it. It's inexcusable, really. And when I see these people out there, typically men, who are ranting about how much other people who are far more accomplished and famous than they, how much they suck, I got to wonder, dude, what are you compensating for? You know, you kind of play okay, so there's got to be something else seriously wrong. There's a hole in your soul somewhere that you can only fill by slagging other people. And I'm here to ask you not to subsidize that stuff. You look at a lot of these channels and, you know, they have hundreds of thousands of views sometimes millions of views, and lots of subscribers. And people subscribed to a channel that, as far as I can tell, exists just to talk fellow musicians down. And I just don't think you should do that, especially if you are a musician. Now, if you're just some twit that likes controversy, you go ahead and knock yourself out. But if you're a musician, you know the same thing that I know about all this stuff, which is how hard it is to become not just an accomplished musician, but just a serviceable, a yeoman-level musician. It takes lots of practice. It takes lots of dedication. And everybody who's ever played in front of other people knows what they went through to get there. So why are you running them down? Or why are you supporting people that run people like that down? It makes no sense. You really shouldn't do it. So that's all I'm here to ask you to do today. Please avoid these clickbaity YouTube channels where you're subsidizing something that's just not right, at least in my view. Now, you know, you want to go ahead and do it. I'm not going to bend your arm behind your back not to. I'm just going to suggest that there's a whole bunch of things on YouTube that you can watch if you're a musician that are uplifting. There are performance videos I see every day that blow me away, and occasionally one that makes me want to put all my guitars away and take up another hobby. There's lots of wonderful, uplifting, positive stuff that you can watch and listen to out there, besides these knuckleheads that produce these top 5, top 10 lists where they're just running stuff down. And by the way, I would go as far as to extend that to musical instruments. I see a lot of people out there that just bash certain musical instruments. You know, this is terrible, that's terrible. You know what? I own a whole bunch of guitars, and I love every single one of them. Some of them are fabulously expensive. A lot of them are not. And they all do something for me. I love every guitar I've ever put my hands on. At least the ones that I walked out of the store with, because they all talk to me in some way that I found appealing. So, you know, music to me has always been a positive and uplifting experience. It moves my soul. It motivates me to spend hours and hours and hours every day practicing, trying to get a little bit better as time goes along. And, you know, when I listen to people slag down others that I know have done at least as much as I have, if not way more, that's just the kind of thing that I don't want to have anything to do with. So anyway, that's all there is today. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll be seeing you. Cheers.